Imagine finding out that, the solid, consistent you that woke up this morning, the person who likes dark roast coffee, hates commuting in the rain, and gets vaguely anxious about the future on Sunday nights, is actually just a biological hallucination.
Yeah, it is a profoundly unsettling thought, honestly. I mean, we navigate our entire lives operating on this basic assumption that there is a continuous, unchanging pilot sitting right behind our eyes, just steering the ship.
Right. And that assumption feels so incredibly real to us.
Oh, absolutely.
But today, we are taking a deep dive into a 2,000-year-old psychological manual that basically claims our perception of this pilot is just a massive glitch, like a glitch in how we process reality.
It really is.
So we're digging into a literal step-by-step roadmap known as the 16 stages of insight, or, if you want the original Pali language term, the Salasadhiya. And this comes straight from the tradition of Vipassana meditation, which is built entirely on the four foundations of mindfulness.
And, what really stands out to me in these sources is just the sheer clinical precision of it all.
Yeah, it's very analytical.
Exactly. This isn't some collection of vague poetry about, like, being one with the universe or floating on a cloud. It is a highly specific, reproducible framework.
Yeah.
It maps out exactly how the human mind can be completely dismantled and purified, stage by stage, ultimately leading to what the tradition calls nirvana.
And the sources use this really visceral metaphor for the process, which I think kind of frames our whole conversation for you today. It compares going through these 16 stages to peeling an onion.
Which is a great image, because
Yeah.
it's not neat.
No, not at all. You don't just take a hammer and smash the onion to get to the core. You have to strip it back, layer by microscopic layer. And with each layer you peel away, you're uncovering a deeper, maybe much more uncomfortable truth about how your brain constructs your reality.
Right.
And naturally, peeling an onion might sting your eyes a bit. It is not necessarily going to be a pleasant process.
Well, the stinging is actually a crucial part of the mechanism.
Wait, really? The discomfort is intentional?
Oh, yeah. Because what you are peeling away are deeply ingrained defense mechanisms. You are systematically forcing your brain to look at the raw data of existence without the comforting filters it usually applies.
The filters that keep us sane on a daily basis.
Pretty much. But before we even get to that first outer layer, the text throws up this massive flashing warning sign. It's basically a prerequisite for the entire journey.
Right, the ground rules. Let's unpack this, because you can't just jump in.
No, you really can't. The text is adamant that you cannot approach these 16 stages like a syllabus for a college course.
Okay.
These are practical, experiential states of reality. They are things that happen to your perception, not just concepts to be memorized for a test.
So you can't just read about it and say you did it.
Exactly. And the single biggest trap people fall into when they encounter this map is that they sit down, they close their eyes, and they try to, wait for stage 1 to happen so they can check it off and wait for stage 2.
Oh, man. I can totally see myself doing that. Just sitting there, staring at my own brain like it's the progress bar, downloading a software update. Just thinking, come on, let's get to the dissolution phase. I have errands to run today.
Which is so common. But that is the whole problem right there. The expectation itself becomes the obstacle.
Because you're living in the future.
Right. If your mind is projecting into the future, anticipating a specific milestone, you are entirely disconnected from the present moment. And this entire engine of insight runs purely on unfiltered observation of the present.
So the moment you want it to happen.
The moment you start wanting a stage to happen, you aren't observing reality anymore. You are just observing your own desire for reality to be different.
That is such a huge trap. So the mission for you, the listener, today is to just treat this as a map of human consciousness. We're just exploring the territory together.
Exactly. No expectations.
Right. So if we are peeling this onion, we have to start with the outermost layer. And according to the text, the very first illusion we have to rip off is that core assumption we opened the show with.
The idea of a unified self.
Yeah. The text calls this first milestone Namarupa Paricheda Jnana.
Right, which translates to the knowledge of distinguishing body and mind. So Nama refers to mental phenomena, the mind, and Rupa refers to physical form, or the body.
Okay, let's unpack how this actually works, because saying you don't exist is a great philosophical bumper sticker, but how does the brain actually experience that in a practical way?
It's all about separating the components.
Right. The sources use the analogy of separating the machine from the driver.
Yes.
The machine is your physical body, your nervous system, your bones, the raw sensory inputs. And the driver is the mind, the awareness that notices things and reacts to them. They work together so so incredibly fast that we just mush them together and call the whole package me.
Let's ground this in something tangible, something you might experience. Think about eating a piece of incredibly sour candy.
Oh, like one of those warheads.
Exactly. Normally, your immediate unexamined thought is, I am toasting sour, and I hate it.
Right, my face scrunches up, and it's just one big unified experience of, I don't like this.
Right. The I is a solid block, experiencing the event. But if you were to apply this first stage of insight, you would slow that fraction of a second way down,
How slow are we talking?
like frame by frame slow. You would observe that there is a physical object making contact with the tongue. That's rupa, the machine. There's a chemical reaction firing a signal up a nerve, still rupa.
Okay, still physical.
Then there's a sudden burst of mental awareness of a sharp sensation. That's nama, the driver. And immediately following that, there's a secondary mental phenomenon, a reaction of dislike.
Okay, hold on. I need to push back here a little bit. Because if I am just a meat machine responding to stimuli and a driver experiencing it, doesn't that make life feel incredibly robotic?
I hear that a lot, yeah.
Like, it sounds like we're just dissecting ourselves into clinical little parts. If I don't exist as a unified person who is deciding to even do this analysis in the first place.
It's a very natural pushback. The fear is that dismantling the self leaves you feeling cold and mechanical, like a zombie.
Exactly. Like all the joy is sucked out.
But experientially, according to the text, it is the exact opposite. The illusion of a unified I is actually very heavy. It's a burden.
How so?
Think about pain. When you think, I am in pain, your entire identity is trapped inside that sensation. It is suffocating. It's claustrophobic.
Because the pain becomes who you are in that moment.
Yes. But when you distinguish the components, when you see, okay, there is a physical pressure here and there's a mental reaction of aversion over there, you suddenly introduce space.
Oh, I see.
You aren't a robot. You are simply realizing that the driving isn't being done by a solid little homunculus sitting in your head. It is a continuous flowing stream of decisions, reactions, and movements.
It's like looking closely at a television screen. From the couch, you see a solid picture of a person. It looks completely real.
Right.
But if you walk right up to the glass and press your nose against it, you see millions of tiny red, green, and blue pixels. The picture isn't real in the way you thought it was, but the pixels are real.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. You're seeing the actual pixels of your own consciousness. And once you can see the individual pixels, you naturally start noticing how they interact with each other.
Like, why does a red pixel light up when a blue one does?
Exactly. And this natural curiosity about how the pixels interact forces the mind right into the second layer of the onion, Bhakaya Pariga Jnana.
The knowledge of understanding cause and effect.
Because once the machine and the driver are separated, the profound realization is that they don't do anything randomly.
There's a pattern.
A very strict pattern. Every single microaction, every passing thought has a strict observable cause. The text emphasizes that nothing is an accident. There is no uncaused cause in the human system.
And the examples the sources give for this are so wonderfully mundane. They don't talk about grand destiny or cosmic alignment. They say things like, you eat because you are hungry. You get angry because you are thwarted.
Very simple stuff.
Right. And on the surface, I read that and thought, well, obviously. A toddler knows that. But the text implies this is a radical shift in perception. Why is noticing that I eat when I'm hungry considered such a profound insight?
Because you aren't just conceptualizing it intellectually, you are observing the raw machinery in real time.
Okay, so it's the difference between knowing how an engine works and actually watching the pistons fire.
That's a great way to put it. Normally, we retroactively assign a self to our actions. We say, I decided to go to the kitchen. But at this stage, you watch the actual chain of dominoes fall as it happens.
Walk me through that chain.
Okay, so the body depletes its caloric energy. That physical state causes a specific contraction in the stomach lining. That physical sensation causes a mental phenomenon of discomfort. Right. That mental discomfort causes a desire for alleviation. That desire triggers the motor cortex, and the legs move.
Wow. So it's an unbroken chain.
Yes. And seeing that unbroken chain in real time destroys the illusion that you are a totally independent agent operating outside the laws of physics. You realize you are deeply entangled in a web of conditions.
Which, honestly, sounds like a massive relief, because think about how much time we spend beating ourselves up for our reactions.
Oh, the guilt is endless.
If you truly internalize this stage, you realize that your sudden spike of anxiety or the fact that you snapped at your partner because you were tired, Those aren't fundamental flaws in your soul.
No, they're just mechanics.
They are just the driver responding to inputs in the machine based on past conditioning. The visual input of your partner leaving dishes in the sink hit a tired nervous system, which caused a mental state of frustration, which caused the mouth to open and say something sharp.
It completely reframes guilt. You stop being a victim of your own mysterious personality and you start acting like a mechanic.
Right. A mechanic doesn't get angry at a car engine when it stalls. They don't take it personally.
Exactly. They trace the causal chain to find the broken spark plug.
But wait, if I'm tracing all these microscopic causes and effects, the stomach contracting, the nerve firing, the thought arising, how long until my brain just shorts out from the processing speed?
That is a very real concern.
Because that sounds like an overwhelming amount of data to track simultaneously.
And that feeling of overwhelming speed is exactly the threshold into an entirely new phase of insight. You hit the nail on the head regarding speed.
Oh, so the speed is a feature, not a bug.
Yes. Because once you see the machinery, you begin to perceive the RPMs the engine is actually running at. This marks the entry into what the tradition calls the 9 Vipassana Jnanas, which are deep insights into the 3 marks of existence.
Okay, let's look at those 3 marks. This is stage 3, Samasana Jnana, comprehending the marks. The text lists them as impermanence, suffering or unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. Meaning everything in the body and mind is constantly changing, therefore it can never satisfy us perfectly, and therefore we can't claim any of it as a permanent identity.
It is a bitter pill to swallow, frankly. Our brains have evolved to actively filter out these 3 marks.
Why would our brains lie to us like that?
Survival. From an evolutionary standpoint, your brain wants you to believe the world is stable. It wants you to believe that you can find permanent satisfaction if you just gather enough resources, and that you are a very important, solid entity. That keeps you alive and reproducing.
That makes total sense. If we saw everything as fleeting and unsatisfying, we wouldn't bother building houses or gathering food.
Exactly. But the meditative process strips away that evolutionary filter.
Which leads directly into stage 4, Udyabaya Jnana. This is the knowledge of seeing arising and passing away. And the sources point out that this isn't just a philosophical understanding that things change over time.
No, it's visceral.
You literally start to see reality flickering. Here's where it gets really interesting, folks.
The perceptual frame rate of your mind increases dramatically. You are no longer experiencing a steady stream of consciousness. You begin to perceive the microscopic birth and death of every single sensation.
I keep thinking about a movie projector.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right, because when we watch a film, we see a continuous image of a person walking. But if you physically touched the film reel, you know it's just 24 static photographs flashing in sequence every second.
And your brain stitches it together.
Exactly. Our visual cortex stitches them together.
Oh.
I think scientists call it saccadic masking or something similar to create the illusion of smooth reality.
That is a brilliant parallel. Your consciousness does the exact same thing with reality. In stage 4, you essentially slow down the projector of your own mind. You see the individual frames.
What does that feel like physically?
You notice that a single breath isn't a long, smooth sensation. It is a rapid-fire series of hundreds of distinct physical pressures and temperatures, each one popping into existence and instantly vanishing to make room for the next one.
A friend of mine who actually went on a long Vipassana retreat described this exact thing to me once, and I honestly thought they were just sleep deprived.
What do they say?
They said they looked at their own hand and felt like it was buzzing, like it was made of TV static. It's like seeing the Matrix card.
That is a classic description of this stage.
And the text says this stage is often incredibly exhilarating. People feel light, they feel brilliant, they think they've achieved enlightenment right then and there.
It feels like a superpower. You are seeing the vibrant, dynamic, bubbling nature of the universe. It is beautiful.
But there's a catch, isn't there?
Oh, a massive catch. The text warns that this beauty is a trap. It's a corruption of insight if you get attached to it.
Yeah.
Because the mechanics of perception are about to force you into a much, much darker corner.
Right, because if you keep watching the frames of the movie reel flashing by, eventually the novelty wears off, and then a very subtle but terrifying shift in perception happens.
Yes.
The mind pivots. We enter the phase the text literally calls the painful truth, or what some other contemplative traditions refer to as the dark night of the soul.
We arrive at stage 5, Bhanganyana, which is dissolution, and then stage 6, Payanyana, which is fear.
Okay, let's break down the mechanism of dissolution. Why does it go from being a beautiful, bubbling matrix code to an absolute nightmare?
It has to do with where the mind's attention naturally drifts. In stage 4, you saw the arising, the birth, and the passing away, the death of sensations. It was a balanced equation.
You saw the whole picture.
Exactly. But in stage 5, the mind's focus narrows exclusively to the passing away.
Oh.
You stop noticing the new frames appearing on the screen. You only register the old frames vanishing into the dark.
Oh, wow. Okay, so imagine listening to a piece of music, but your brain suddenly stops processing the attack of the notes, and you only hear the fading echoes of the sound decaying into silence.
That is deeply unsettling.
Everywhere you look, every thought you have, you only experience it dissolving.
Exactly that. And the profound psychological impact of experiencing a universe where everything is constantly disintegrating into nothingness is absolute terror. That is stage 6, fear.
Because the ground is falling out from under you?
When your entire perceptual field is dissolving your body, your thoughts, your sense of self of right, the primal animal part of the brain panics, there is no solid ground anywhere.
The metaphor the source material uses here is haunting. It says experiencing this phase is exactly like hugging a fire that is ready to go out at any time.
It's a powerful image.
I want to just sit with that image for a second. You are clinging to a fire. It is burning your flesh, causing you immense pain, but you are so desperate for warmth that you hold on anyway, even though you know for a fact it is rapidly turning into cold ash.
It perfectly captures the futile desperation of the human ego. You realize that everything you rely on for security, your relationships, your bank account, your health, your very personality, is a burning fire of impermanence.
Then you are actively witnessing it dissolve. You can't unsee it.
You can. You are watching the ashes form in real time.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because if I'm a listener, I'm pulling my car over right now saying, why on earth would I ever want to do this?
It's a fair question.
This sounds like a medically induced panic attack. If ignorance is bliss and knowledge is hugging a dying fire, I will take the ignorance, please. Let me just go watch a sitcom and forget the universe is dissolving.
It is a completely rational response.
Yeah.
And frankly, without a framework like this text to guide them, many people who spontaneously hit this stage of perception do feel like they are losing their minds.
I can imagine.
They experience intense anxiety or derealization. But the crucial insight here is that you cannot stop the surgery halfway through.
The chest is already open.
Exactly. The fear is a necessary byproduct of the illusion shattering. It's not the final destination. The fear has to mature.
Mature into what? Because it seems like panic would just escalate until you break.
It matures into stage 7, Adina Vajnana, which is seeing the danger, and then stage 8, Nibbidhanyana, which is profound dispassion or boredom.
Boredom. From pure terror to boredom. That feels like a massive leap. How does my brain go from screaming in a burning building to just checking its watch?
Think about the mechanics of an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
It cannot sustain itself indefinitely. The body literally runs out of chemicals.
That's true.
When you are terrified of the fire, you are still highly engaged with it. You still think it has power. You still think you need it. But as you continuously observe this relentless dissolution, day in and day out, the raw panic starts to intellectualize.
So logic ticks in.
Right. You realize, wait, this isn't just an acute emergency. This is the fundamental nature of the system. Relying on this dissolving world for my happiness isn't just scary. It's a mathematically terrible strategy.
That is seeing the danger. You realize the game is completely rigged.
Precisely. And once you clearly see the game is rigged, you stop wanting to play.
Mm.
The adrenaline burns out, leaving behind a heavy existential weariness. That is Nibbidhanyana.
So it's not clinical depression.
Mm.
Because depression feels heavy, like there is a me that is broken and the world is dark. This sounds fundamentally different.
It is very different. Clinical depression is deeply entangled in the illusion of self. It's saying, I am worthless, my life is bad. Nibbidhanyana is an objective weariness with the machinery itself. It's light, but profoundly disinterested.
It makes me think of a bad magic trick.
How so?
Well, the first time you see a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat, you are amazed. The 50th time, maybe you are annoyed because you can't figure it out. But the 1000th time, when you can clearly see the false bottom in the hat and the mirror under the table.
You're just done.
Exactly. You aren't amazed. You aren't scared. You are just incredibly bored. You want to leave the theater. You have lost all passion for the illusion.
That dispassion is the critical fuel for the next phase of the journey. You cannot escape a prison if you are still fascinated by the architecture of the bars.
Wow, yeah.
You have to be utterly bored by them to seriously look for the exit.
Which brings us to the escape plan. Because logically, if I'm holding a fire, I'm scared of it, and now I'm completely exhausted by it, my brain is going to demand a way out.
This manifests as Sage 9, Mudita Kamyatanyana, the desire for deliverance, and then stage 10, Paritsankanyana, which is reobservation.
Desire for deliverance is straightforward enough. Just get me out of here. But where exactly is here? Because you can't buy a plane ticket away from your own physical and mental phenomena.
And that is the exact trap the mind realizes it is in. It wants to escape rupa and nama, the body and mind. But everywhere it looks, there's only more body and mind.
There is no geographical escape from consciousness.
None at all.
So what does the mind do when it realizes it's cornered like that?
It falls back on the only tool it has left, observation. That is stage 10, reobservation. The mind starts methodically reviewing all the previous insight.
Like retracing its steps.
Exactly. It looks at the impermanence, the suffering, the non-self, the dissolution. It's like a prisoner methodically tapping on every single stone in the cell wall, looking for a hollow spot. It is trying to solve the riddle of how to let go of something you are fundamentally embedded inside.
It's a massive struggle. You are pushing against the very limits of the human operating system, and then the system gives up.
But not in a bad way.
No, in a revolutionary way. After all that fear, the boredom, the frantic tapping on the walls, a breakthrough happens. And this might be the most practical, incredible concept in the whole text. Stage 11, Sankarupikanyana, equanimity towards formations.
It is a monumental achievement in human cognitive development.
The breakthrough is that the mind realizes it can't physically run away, and it can't force reality to stop dissolving, so it does the only logical thing left. It completely alters its relationship to the chaos.
It stops fighting.
It drops into a state of absolute, profound neutrality.
The term equanimity is vital here. It means perfect balance. Think of the wild emotional pendulum we've just been tracking.
Right, from the thrill to the horror.
Exactly. The initial excitement of separating mind and body, the thrill of seeing the rapid frames of reality, the sheer horror of dissolution, the heavy exhaustion of disgust, the frantic urge to escape. In this stage, the pendulum finally comes to a dead stop in the center.
It just rests.
The mind accepts the reality of the arising and passing away, without taking any stance on it whatsoever. It is neither delighted by pleasure nor repulsed by pain.
The source material uses a brilliant visual for this. It says, achieving this stage is exactly like standing and watching cars running back and forth on a road without running down to block them and without jumping into any of the cars.
Let's explore the mechanics of that metaphor because it's so useful. The cars are your mental phenomena, your thoughts, your physical sensations, anxieties, memories.
Everything the driver experiences.
Right. In our normal, unexamined lives, we are constantly playing in traffic. A sleek, beautiful sports car drives by, say, a compliment from a boss or a pleasant memory, and we immediately run into the street and try to jump into the passenger seat to ride it for as long as possible.
And when an ugly, noisy garbage truck drives by like a sudden spike of social anxiety or a memory of something incredibly embarrassing we did 5 years ago, we run into the middle of the highway and throw our hands up, trying to physically block it from hitting us.
Which is incredibly exhausting and ultimately futile. The garbage truck is going to hit you anyway. The sports car is going to run out of gas. You are constantly getting run over by your own mind.
It's a terrible way to live.
But in the state of equanimity, you finally realize you don't belong in the street. You step up onto the sidewalk.
You just watch the traffic.
You observe the cars passing. A thought of intense anxiety rolls by. You watch it enter your field of awareness, and you watch it leave. You don't try to stop it. A feeling of joy rolls by. You let it pass without trying to chase it down the block.
I really want you, the listener, to apply this to your life right now. Imagine the sheer superpower of that. Let's say you have a massive presentation tomorrow. Your chest is tight. Your mind is racing with worst-case scenario.
The usual panic.
Right. Normally, you are in the street getting hit by those cars, but imagine just stepping onto the sidewalk. You feel the tight chest, the rupa, the machine. You notice the racing thoughts, the nama, the driver, and you just say, oh, look at that anxious traffic today.
You observe it without absorbing it.
You don't jump into it. You don't try to violently suppress it. You just let this system run its course while you stand safely on the curb.
It is the culmination of all the grueling work in the previous stages. You couldn't just magically step onto that sidewalk on day one.
You had to earn it.
You had to realize you weren't the car. You had to see how fast the cars were moving. You had to be terrified by the traffic, and you had to get completely bored of the noise. Equanimity is earned through the crucible of the painful truth.
But the map doesn't end on the sidewalk. Because as peaceful as the sidewalk is, you are still next to the highway. You are still in the conditioned world. Which brings us to a massive transition. The leap of faith.
The mind is perfectly balanced. It is completely unattached to the traffic,
Yeah.
and because it is so incredibly still, it is finally ready to cross the bridge out of the conditioned world entirely. We enter stage 12, Handelo Manana, or adaptation.
Adaptation means the mind is tuning itself to the final frequency. It is gathering all the data, the impermanence, the suffering, the equanimity, and aligning itself perfectly with the ultimate truth.
It's preparing.
It's like a rocket ship completing its final pre-launch checklist. Everything is green.
Which triggers stage 13, Katrabunyana, the change of lineage.
The sources describe this as an instantaneous tipping point, a microsecond that acts as the exact boundary line between an ordinary person who is trapped in the cycle of cause and effect and a noble person who has tasted liberation.
The phrase change of lineage is fascinating. It implies a complete mutation. You are literally adopting a new genetic code for your consciousness.
How did that happen in a microsecond?
The mind, resting in that perfect equanimity, takes one final, comprehensive look at the physical and mental world. It sees the machinery, it sees the arising and passing away, and it decisively, permanently abandons its attachment to it.
It just lets go.
It lets go of the edge of the pool. And in that fraction of a moment, it points its awareness directly toward the unconditioned, toward nirvana.
It's like you've spent your entire life climbing a sheer cliff face, your nose inches from the dirt and the rock. Adaptation is when you reach the final ridge. Change of lineage is the single second where you stand up, look over the edge, and for the first time in your life, you see the infinite horizon.
Beautifully put.
You aren't a rock climber anymore. Your lineage has changed.
And once you take that leap, gravity takes over. You land on the other side.
Which brings us to the destination, stage 14, Megajnana or path knowledge. And this is where the permanent rewiring actually happens.
Right. Throughout the entire journey up to this point, you were managing your mental defilements. You were observing them, suppressing them with concentration, becoming equanimous to them.
But they were still there.
Yes, lying dormant in the deep architecture of the brain. Path knowledge is the mechanism of eradication. It strikes like a bolt of lightning and permanently destroys a specific layer of those deep-rooted delusions.
The sources say that the first time a person hits this stage, it is called stream entry. And they use a great analogy of cutting the root.
Imagine a massive, invasive weed in your garden. The early stages of insight were like carefully pruning the leaves, maybe chopping the stem down to the soil.
So it looks nice on the surface.
The garden looks clear, you feel peaceful. But the taproot is still buried deep underground, biding its time. Given the right conditions, the weed will grow back.
It always does.
Megajnana is taking a shovel, digging beneath the soil of the unconscious mind, and severing the taproot entirely. Once that specific root is cut, for instance, the core delusion of a permanent self, it is biologically impossible for it to ever grow back. The neural pathway is annihilated.
And the immediate aftershock of that lightning strike is stage 15, Phalajnana. Fruition knowledge.
If path knowledge is the intense exertion of severing the root, fruition knowledge is the profound, cooling relief that washes over the mind immediately after.
The payoff.
It is the consciousness resting in the unconditioned reality, experiencing the absolute absence of the defilements that were just destroyed. It is the reward for the journey.
So you have this universe-shattering, transcendent moment of ultimate peace. You've touched nirvana. But you know what I absolutely love about this ancient framework?
What's that?
It doesn't end with a fade to white and angels playing harps. The final stage of enlightenment is basically doing paperwork. It's an audit.
It is fiercely practical. Stage 16 is Pakavekkanajnana, reviewing knowledge.
So what does this all mean? The mind literally asks itself, all right, what just happened? It takes inventory.
The momentous event of fruition passes, normal consciousness resumes, and the mind immediately steps back into an analytical mode. It reviews the entire sequence. It asks, what was the path I just experienced? What was the exact nature of the fruition?
It checks to see which roots were actually cut. Did I fully eradicate the belief in self? Yes. Did I fully eradicate all subtle traces of ill will? No, there's still some of that left.
Exactly. It identifies what has been successfully abandoned, and crucially, it identifies what work remains to be done. Because unless you have traversed this cycle multiple times and reached the absolute final tier of liberation, there are always deeper roots to dig up.
It keeps you honest.
This tradition doesn't allow for vague, mystical arrogance. You can't just claim you are enlightened. The mind runs a diagnostic on itself. You know precisely what you have achieved, and you know exactly what conditioning is still running in the background.
It grounds the most metaphysical experience possible right back down to earth. You peeled the onion, you cried through the painful truth, you found the empty center, and then you sweep up the onion skins and take out the trash.
It is the perfect marriage of profound spiritual liberation and grounded psychological realism.
So, if we step back and look at this entire journey we've just traversed, the source text actually provides a beautifully blunt, short summary of the whole 16-stage process.
Yes, it does.
It boils down to one simple concept: stopping fooling yourself.
That is really all it is.
You stop fooling yourself that you are a solid entity, and you separate the machine from the driver. You stop fooling yourself that you are in control, and you see the relentless chain of cause and effect.
And then the speed hits.
You see the terrifying speed of reality dissolving, which forces you to stop fooling yourself that you can find permanent safety in a burning house. So you step onto the sidewalk of equanimity, completely bored of the illusion, and from that perfect balance, you strike at the root of the suffering itself.
And while reaching stage 16 is a monumental life task, the immediate takeaway for anyone listening is that you don't need to be a monk in a cave to use this technology.
Definitely not.
This roadmap is applicable to your Tuesday afternoon.
Right. When you are furious at your boss, can you peel just that first layer? Can you separate the physical sensation of your heart racing from the mental narrative that your boss is out to get you? Can you be the mechanic looking at the engine instead of the victim locked in the trunk?
When you are overwhelmed by the news or anxious about the economy, can you remember the highway? Can you find that internal sidewalk and just watch the noisy garbage trucks of panic drive by without throwing yourself in front of them?
Just watch them pass.
Every stage of this map offers a practical tool to instantly reduce the friction in your life.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you transition back into the noise of your day. We spent a lot of time on that terrifying middle phase, the dark night, where reality feels like you are hugging a dying fire.
The painful truth.
The next time you feel completely possessed by a painful emotion, whether it is intense anger, crippling anxiety, or deep existential fear, try to pause for just 1 second and ask yourself a question.
What's the question?
Are you the fire? Or are you just the person choosing to hug it? Because if you realize you aren't the fire and you're just the person holding on to it, what happens if you simply decide to let your arms drop, take 1 step back, and just watch it burn out on its own?
The fire always runs out of fuel eventually.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.